Randomness? It's a girl thing. Planning your entire future with a guy you've only spoken 3 words to? It's a girl thing. Online shopping problem? It's a girl thing. A full camera roll? It's a girl thing. Going to the bathroom together? It's a girl thing. You name it. It's a girl thing.
Hi and welcome back to the It's a Girl Thing podcast. It's me, Kate, and we're here for another day, another chit-chat, and another you and me session. Honestly, it's getting a little bit cold here, so I've got myself a little bit cozied up with a blanket. I say like I haven't been in a tank top and shorts with my windows open all day. But there's something about cold fresh air versus being able to like snuggle up, you know? I don't know. I'm a bit of a weirdo sometimes, and that's okay. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Kate. I'm an 18-year-old girl from New Zealand, and we're just taking on the world one day at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 episode at a time, and we really like to just keep it real, keep it slow, keep it realistic to what we're really tackling in life, because it's not all perfect, it's not all what you see on social media, and that is totally okay. So we're trying to make the most of it, we're trying to navigate it together, and I really hope you stick around and join us. If you've been here a while, welcome back. We're here for another day, and I'm so happy you're here. And yeah, if you like the show, don't forget to leave a rating or a review on your favourite streaming platform. Follow along and make sure you get all the latest episodes. Little life update. I have a giveaway, guys. We have reached 1,000 all-time downloads across all the audio streaming platforms. And that is so crazy to me, and I am so crazily excited because this was my goal for the entire year. So to have done that over the audio platforms already is dream come true for me. So if you're from New Zealand, head over to Instagram, make sure that you tag your friend in the comments, make sure you're doing all the instructions, and you could win a beautiful, I think it's Natio Spa, one of my favourite little Australian brands, a gift set and some face masks and a little candle. It's not big, but it's just to say thank you because I am so grateful for you guys every day. I had an exam yesterday. I think I passed, so that's always a plus. And then to celebrate the fact that we'd had an exam and just the fact that we wanted to socialise, we did a little wine night up in my room, which was lovely. Got a little bit tipsy, but I'm not admitting that, but I am. It wasn't bad. I wasn't bad, but it's probably the tipsiest I've been. But it was good fun, and didn't suffer any repercussions today because I stopped when I wanted to. I didn't feel the need to keep going. And yeah, my sleep schedule has been so screwed lately though. I went to bed at 2 a.m. last night / this morning. But I was back in my room by 10:30, 11 o'clock. But I got a little bit sucked into my private practice watching, so that was a bit of a danger in itself. So we're trying to get the sleep schedule back on track because I know that that's probably part of the reason studying's all over the place for me at the moment. And speaking of studying, welcome to today's episode topic. Studying can be fun. Sometimes. And so we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about study tips, methods, study in general. What can you do to make it fun, and what are practical things you can do to make your studying better? Now, this goes for my high school girlies, it goes for my university girlies. You just got to tailor it to your needs. So let's dig right into the good stuff. So I have some very mixed feelings about study. My biggest problem is getting started. Actually getting the motivation to go sit down and do it, because I can so often know, I can have my mental list of what I'd do if I was studying, and I know what needs to be done, but it's like dragging myself away from the other stuff to study instead. And I'm not the best at it, but that's okay. I am still learning, I'm still trialing, I'm still working out what works best for me. So I'm going to share what things I've learned along the way, some new things I'm trying, and then we can just see if you find something there. Studying is so important. I know some people are truly blessed with the fact that they don't need to do much study, that they just are naturally gifted in absorbing knowledge, and that's really cool. But me personally, I need to do a good bit of study if I'm going to do well on something. And also, everyone studies differently. So we've got to work out how to make it fun for you in a way that works for you. And so hopefully, even if we take away one thing from this episode, let's hope it helps. So we'll talk about methods and I'll tell you which ones are my tried and true and which ones I'm still working on, so we get an idea. So I am very much a mixed learner. It all comes back to learning styles. Some people are auditory learners, so they learn by listening. Some learn by doing, which is kinesthetic learning. Some learn by visualizing, so seeing stuff done and things like that. And then you've got reading, writing learning, which is you're really good at doing notes and rereading over notes, and that's the way you learn. I'm a little bit of all of them, so different methods benefit me in different ways. First of all, if you're struggling to study, the Pomodoro method is my tried and true, my go-to if I struggle. It's probably the best thing I can do. And if you haven't heard of the Pomodoro technique before, it's burst and breaks. So you do a 25 to 45 minute burst of studying, and then you take a 5 or 10 minute break, 5 to 15 minute break, depending on obviously the length of your study burst. So if I did 25 minutes, I'd take a 5-minute break. If I did 45 minutes, I'd take probably a 15-minute break. And then you do it in sections, so 45, 15, 45, 15. And the goal is that it gives your brain a break, but it's getting you locked in consistently. For that 45 minutes, there are no distractions. You can't do anything else, because then when you get your 15-minute break, you can do whatever. The only downside to that method is the fact that sometimes I tend to get sidetracked once I have started studying. So I'll do my first burst done. I'll say I'm only going to take a 5 or a 10 minute break, and it ends up being 45 minutes before I come back, or I sometimes don't even come back at all. But then I also have to think, at the end of the day, is the 30 minutes of study that I did to begin with better than no study at all? Yes, it is. So it's got its upsides and downsides. We have spaced repetition. So it's learning something and then repeating that in one day. So, for example, if I was to learn something today, I'll learn it today, I'll go over it tomorrow, then I'll wait 3 days, and then I'll go over it again in 3 days, then I'll go over it again in a week, then I'll go over it again in 2 weeks, and so forth, so that you consistently get it in. This is good for your end of year or end of semester exams, so it's what you've been working towards all along. It's in New Zealand for NCEA, which is our big curriculum exams. Being able to use that all year round to maintain that knowledge is a good one. These are one of my favourite methods: active recall and flashcards. So flashcards, you can use the Lettner 3-tier system, which essentially means you've got 3 piles. They start in pile 1. It's hierarchy, that's the easiest way to think of it. So you do your flashcard. If you get it right, if you get it right on your first go, it moves up 1. And then you do them all, and if you get it wrong, it stays there. So once you've sorted them into your 2 piles, you then go up to the next one. You go, do it again, move it up 1, so forth. And you keep doing it, and you go through your piles. Or you can do it in a way that follows the spaced repetition thing, where once it gets moved into a different pile, you don't review it for 2 days. And when you get up to the 3rd pile, you only review it every week. You know what I mean? Different levels of repetition. So many ways you can do it. But I love flashcards and active recall because it requires me to be thinking all the time. It's one thing to read through notes, but it's another thing to be challenged by going, do I actually know this? Look at it, try and answer, see how much of it you can get right, and go, was that good enough? Was it not? I've also found that with flashcards, especially with definitions, having really weird word associations. I was doing some flashcards on Anki the other day, which is a great one for spaced repetition flashcards. Free to use. You can get a thing that you can import from Quizlet as well, so best of both worlds. Quizlet is great. It's got so many different other modes as well, which I also love, but Anki's good for that spaced repetition. But I was doing one of my flashcards, and it was something, and some of the initials in one side of it had something that I was able to trick myself. So it was empty oxygen, or can't empty oxygen. So the first 3 letters of the word were CEO, or the condition. And I was able to associate that with the fact that you couldn't empty oxygen from the long definition. And so like that word association was the way that I'm now able to remember that condition or that pathology in my case. So it's like all the random little tips and tricks that you can make to trick your brain. It doesn't have to sound normal. It doesn't have to make sense to anyone else except you. Then we have the Feynman technique. I haven't tried this yet, but I think I'm going to start trying it because I did a little bit of research for this episode and was like, well, this actually sounds quite good. So the Feynman technique is a concept where you, for example, you might explain something or write something down. So you'll write down your whole concept that you've been studying, and then you'll read through it and you'll simplify it down. And then you'll read through it again and then you simplify it down. So you've got the most simplified version of it. And not only have you learnt the complex version, the less complex version, and the most simple version, you're more likely to remember that little simple version. Obviously, you've got the classic organise and rewrite your notes, make them look nice, colour code, whatever works for you in that sense. I've discovered over the years, that's what I did at the start of high school. I thought just rewriting, organising, redoing notes and things like that would do the trick for me. In the long term, it may have worked back then, but I don't find it works so much now. And I also just get sick of rewriting the notes. You've got mind maps or summary sheets. So think about the fact that if you've ever had like an open book exam or a cheat sheet exam, you're given, for example, one A4 piece of paper. And on that A4 piece of paper, you are allowed to write anything you like related to this test that you're doing. And that's all the support you're allowed in your exam. Make your own cheat sheet for your exam, whether or not you're allowed to bring it in, because it forces you to decide what are the most key pieces of information that you need to know to go into this test. Use and condense into that because it shows you what you actually need to know and what's most important. Because a lot of the time when we've got teachers or lecturers or whatever, they tell us it's all important, and most of it is, but there are things that are more important than others. Practice tests, one of my tried and true. I love a good practice test, especially I've discovered in uni a lot of the practice tests that we do, at least a good 3 or 4 questions from that practice test are almost completely duplicated onto our real test, which is such a blessing. So if you have the ability to do practice tests at uni, make sure you're doing them. It also gives you an idea of how your teachers or your lecturers, whether high school or uni, how they ask questions, especially in NCEA or any high school testing curriculum. Go over past exam papers because that shows you the layout. Study groups is another method, kind of. Study with people who study similar to you or will keep you on task. Blurting technique. I haven't tried I think I've tried it like once. It's good for things like history or stuff where you've really got to like mass learn. So for example, I could read a page out of a textbook and then I set a timer for say 2 minutes and I close the book and I have to write out everything important that I remember from that page in 2 minutes. So it's just like another way of trying to memorize and absorb and learn information. But there is a difference between learning information and understanding information. And I think I'll be honest and say that's probably my number one problem. I am pretty good at learning stuff. Understanding stuff is sometimes my problem because a lot of the time I actually have to see something in action to be able to apply it. So being able to sit there in like a physics class and not actually see how that applies itself. It's like the concept when you're a little kid and you just sit there and you go, but why? Or if you've ever been around a little kid and they'll say something, they'll be like, but why? Then you'll give them an answer and they'll go, but why? And it just repeats and repeats and repeats. That's how I sometimes feel with physics and sometimes with other classes. I'm like, but why? Like, I don't understand why. I get what you're saying and I can learn what you're saying and I know that that's true, but why? And then my last one on the list of methods is teach someone else. Teach someone who doesn't have any prior knowledge. Because that way you've got to lower it down to a level that anyone can understand. It's making you look past all the technical terms and all the complex stuff and put it simply. It can be as simple as literally teaching your stuffed animals. Teach them like you would a teacher trying to teach you. And finally, mix up your methods. Trial and error is going to be your best friend when learning what study methods suit you, because it's not one size fits all. Now, let's get into study tips, practical and fun. So, for practical and productive study tips, you're very, very boring, very, very cliche. Have enough sleep, drink water, be organised, make a study plan, especially going into an exam season. Work out how often you're going to revise what paper, what subject, and stick to it. Don't skip your classes or lectures or tutorials or labs or whatever it may be. Don't skip them. They're there for a reason. I saw for a classic uni student who has like their one lecture a week for their paper, and I swear I saw somebody say it costs like $80 for a lecture. That's $80 of your education you're wasting if you skip it. Yes, it's online, but it's not the same, and you don't always get the same level of benefit. And also, ask your teachers, lecturers, or tutors questions, because they are there, they're being paid for you to utilise them. Like, I apologise because some of my lecturers probably get too many questions, but hey, it's better that I ask them than not ask at all. Now let's go for the fun tips. Use some of these methods, but use them with friends, so like study groups, sitting together and studying so that you're all forcing each other to keep on task, chucking phones into a pile, and making your conversation, you can talk to each other, but you can only talk on topic to what you're studying. That's a good one because you're still getting that social aspect, it's still fun, you're still not sitting alone by yourself in your room studying, or in a library studying. Put a twist on it. So, say, I'm trying to think of an example, I had a good one earlier, but it's like, don't just think about following one technique, think about how you can change it to make it more fun. It might be, I discovered a little thing online that was like, for every 100 or 200 words you write on this, of a document or an essay, it shows you a picture of a kitten, or a little puppy, or whatever you find cute. And I thought that was just a cute little concept. So like, find ways to put a twist on it. Being comfortable is so beneficial for studying. So like, getting comfy clothes, get a blanket or an hoodie, or be in sweatpants, or if you feel like you work better when you're put together, then be comfortably put together. Put your hair back, put a little bit of makeup, or do your skincare. Do those things that make you feel comfortable and feel your best. And because everyone's different, comfortable is different. Like for me, I usually like to study during the day, and I like to be in my nicer clothes, not like just sweatpants. I like to have my skincare and a little bit of makeup on. I like to have done those things and make myself put together. But if I'm studying at night, I just want to be in track pants and a hoodie. So make yourself comfortable in whatever way that is. Study break snacks. The number one thing in my life is study break snacks. And my mum was lovely enough that she made me and my girls a big box of snacks for studying, because we do a lot of study groups in our evenings, and she made a giant box of snacks for that. So make sure you've got some snacks to get you through studying. To-do lists. Make a to-do list of everything you want to get done, whether it's for the day, for the week, because every time you tick something off, you can make them as small or as big goals to achieve. I kind of like to go somewhere in the middle, so that like it might be right half of my essay, or right a third of my assignment today. Because even if you don't do the whole thing, you can tick something off, and that tick makes you feel like you've achieved something, which makes you more likely to want to keep going. Feel like you're in a productive studying montage scene in a movie or a TV show. There are so many good Spotify playlists out there to help you feel that. Once again, it's all about mindset. So choose a cute location. Doesn't have to be at home at your desk, or if it's at home at your desk, tidy it up a little bit so that you feel like you're hard at work cramming for your final exam that nobody ever thought you were going to do, and and whatever it may be. Romanticize it. Make it fun. I personally, music that is upbeat and fast-paced, you feel like you're trying to beat the clock. You feel like I feel like it pushes me to go faster and work harder and do more. Whereas like slow classical music, which is what I was told in school to listen to because it's got no lyrics and stuff like that, I feel like it just bores me. It doesn't make me interested in studying at all. Changing your mindset from I have to study to I get to study. I get to sit down and learn new things. I get to tell people about these new things. I get to study to be able to save lives. I get to study to be able to help people. I get to study so that one day I might have my dream life. There are so many mindset shifts that we can make to make studying more fun. Find something that you're curious about within what you're studying. Not always possible. Personally, couldn't say I find anything into curiosity about accounting or anything like economics, but hey, you might. Cute stationery. If you're not doing everything on a computer, some cute highlighters, cute pens, cute notebooks. Kmart has it all, and it's affordable and cheap and easy to spice it up. And my final make it fun tip is make it a challenge. Set yourself a challenge. Set yourself a goal, whatever it may be. Make it a challenge for yourself. Set goals. Have a challenge a friend. Be like, well, I bet I can't do this faster than you, kind of things. Why am I doing today? I am, apparently. So there's some options to help make studying fun, some new methods, some bits and bobs that might help you find studying a little bit more fun or a little bit more likely. However, remember that you can take everything I say with a grain of salt. These are things I've researched, things I've learned along the way. So they don't necessarily work for everyone. They don't even necessarily always work for me. But it gives me a whole list of options on a day where I don't feel like studying. I can go, well, I think I can force myself to do that. Or I can get to do that if I'm going to take my own advice. And hey, this episode's for me just as much as it's for you. Because we're all in it together and studying can be fun. Sometimes. Doesn't mean it's going to be fun all the time because it's something that does have to get done. But it can be fun sometimes, and it's important that we remember that. So, thank you for joining us on today's episode. I have really enjoyed this chat, and I'm trying to condense my episodes down so they're a little bit shorter, a little bit less waffle, but that you get all the information I still want to give, all the advice, all the support, all the love. So let's finish off like a minute of hype girlness because I love you and I am just so incredibly proud of you today. And if you're listening to this episode, it's because you know you want more for yourself. You know you want to study harder. You know you want to do better. And if you feel like you're already there, there's always a little bit more room. There's always a little bit more room to grow because nobody's perfect. Nobody's ever going to reach perfect. And if you think you've seen somebody who's reached perfect, they have problems too. We all have them, whether you can see it or not. It's so important that you realize that you are loved, that you're put on this earth for a reason. God loves you, I love you, and you woke up today, and that is a blessing in itself. So you are enough, and yeah, thanks for being here. Don't forget to leave a rating or tell a friend if you love this show, because there are so many other girls out there who might benefit from a word or two that I say, or just might benefit from our confessions on Wednesdays and need a little giggle because they can get a little bit entertaining around here. But yeah, thanks for joining us. I'll see you on Wednesday or I'll see you next Sunday. Bye!
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode. It's been great having you. If you have any topics you'd love for me to discuss, want some big sisterly advice, or just want to say hey, just reach out to me on Instagram at It's a Girl Thing Pod, and I hope you join us next week. Stay beautiful.